Welcome, everybody. Today we're going to talk about what happens if you need to refine, adjust, clean up those photographs that you've taken of your artwork, of your drawings. So keep in mind, our goal is to make sure that our digital images look as good as the artwork looks in person. And of course, many of you guys may have issues with lighting. You may have issues with your drawings looking a little bit yellow or a little bit discolored. And this is why we want to use a photo editor or a photo editing app to fix these issues. We don't want to misrepresent our work. We simply want to eliminate the distractions that will, you know, make the work look not as good as it does in person. So again, this isn't a graphics class, but I did want to show you guys some tips and tricks when it comes to ways that you can present your work in the most positive light. If you guys do have access to advanced tools like Photoshop or other programs, you're more than welcome to use them. If you're editing on your phone, there's many apps that you can use to edit your photos, even simple things like cropping, adjusting the layers, the filters, things like that. There's many tools out there. A lot of students like to use the app Cam Scanner because that will help you clean up the things that you take with your phone. But if you have other apps that you like to use, you're more than welcome to do so. The main thing is we want to show our drawings at their best, right? We want to enhance what's already there. We don't want to misrepresent. We're not adding all kinds of crazy filters or things like that. We're simply cleaning things up. So I'm going to show you guys how to do that using a free photo editor tool that you can use on any internet browser. You don't have to install any software. You don't have to pay for it. It's free. All you have to do is go to pixlr.com, as you can see that I have here on my screen. And it's very fast. It's a very quick process, but of course it makes a world of a difference. So we're going to go ahead and get started here. So again, if you want to use Pixlr, like I said, it's a great tool. It's free. It's easy to use once you get the hang of the workspace if you haven't done a lot of photo editing before. But like I said, if you have a different tool that works for you, like I said, there's a lot of great apps out there. There's a lot of great programs on your computer. No matter what tool you're using, there's no reason why you can't make these simple adjustments to improve the presentation and the professionalism of your work. Because remember, a lot of the artwork that we encounter nowadays is through a digital means. And if you don't have good digital images of said artwork, you're not giving off a great impression. So for better or for worse, that's our challenge ahead. So of course you will notice when you go to the Pixlr homepage here, we have two options. We have advanced and we have playful. The differences between these for our purposes are inconsequential. The playful doesn't have as many of the advanced features. It's kind of more if you're just playing around, right? It's in the name, and you can, it's more about, messing around, less likely to do a lot of these advanced features. We're going to do advanced just to show you what we offer. So when you click on it, we open up this page here. And you can see the workspace. We don't really have to do too much at this point. If you didn't have any images ready, or you're not sure what to do, or you're not sure if this is the right tool for you, you can try editing one of these photos down here to play around with the tool. But we already know what we want in this case, so I'm going to go ahead and press Open Image, this blue button over to the left. So I'm going to go ahead and find the drawing, the picture of the drawing that I took with my phone that I want to edit, which is right here in my downloads folder. So you can see when I press open, here we have the Pixlr workspace. For those of you guys that have used image editing software such as Photoshop, you can see here that the workspace is pretty similar. We have our tools over to the left, we have our panels over to the right, and our menu up at the top. And that's kind of the standard user interface for a lot of graphics editing programs. So it kind of makes sense we're doing the same thing here. So like I said, if you have experience with Inkscape or Photoshop, this may look familiar. For those of you guys that don't, no worries, you're learning. So first and foremost, we need to go through and say, okay, what do we need to do to this picture to make it look good? If I were to just post this picture, still looks pretty decent, but there are things that we can do to make it even better, to make it look more professional. Because right now, first of all, it's on its side. We have all this extra space around the edge of the paper that's a bit distracting. And of course, the contrast, the lighting, the paper looks a little yellowy, even though I was drawing on a white piece of paper. And these are all issues that came up, again, when we were taking just normal pictures. Not everybody has a lighting studio in their house, so sometimes it can be hard to get good pictures initially, and that's why we're using these tools as well. So first and foremost, we should definitely rotate this thing because that's step number one, right? So of course, first thing we need to do is if you go up to your menu under Image, and you click the little drop down, you can see I'm doing it right here, you can see that there is an image rotation option. So we need to rotate this image to the left to make it portrait oriented like I drew it. So I'm going to click that. And now you can see that my image has rotated. So some of it did get cut off. That's because we're zoomed in quite a bit. If you go over to your right side here under Navigate, you can see that we can slide this little slider here to zoom out to be able to see our entire picture. So sometimes that can be quite helpful because, again, sometimes you don't always know what you're getting at. So now we should crop our image, right? Because again, all of this extra stuff, it's nice to be able to see the environment that we drew this piece in, but it's distracting, especially when we consider final presentation, right? So we want to focus on the drawing itself, not the desk, the table, the floor, wherever is around your picture. We want to focus on the piece itself, unless of course you're dealing with installation art or the frame is part of the image, but in this case, it's not. So we can go over here to the left, and you can see that the third tool down is the crop tool. If you're ever not sure about what these tools are or what they do, if you just move your mouse over them, you can see that these helpful little hints pop up, right? You can see that a description and the name of the tool pops up. So this can be very helpful when it comes to getting to know the tools that are available for us. We're only going to be using crop. But if you did want to play around, if you've ever thought about image editing before, sometimes it's fun to think about how we can create digital artwork. But for now, we're enhancing our traditional artwork. So I'm going to click on crop, which again, third tool down from the left. So if you click on it, now you can see that we are in cropping mode. So this white frame has appeared around my image, and I can mouse over the different corners, these different little white areas, and you see these little arrows pop up, letting me know that if I click and hold and drag, I'll be able to adjust the frame. So I'm going to start up with this corner here. I'm going to click and hold down my mouse and drag. And you see that as I'm dragging, those rule of thirds lines pop up, and that can be helpful if you're cropping out extra information and you want to make sure that you have a good composition. That's why those are there. But for us, we already know what we want to crop to, just the paper size. So I'm going to drag, drag, drag. I'm going to let go. Now I'm going to move my mouse down here. I'm going to click and hold and drag this up. And I want to get rid of all that black matting, right? I want to just see my beautiful drawing. And of course you can adjust, you can twist it, you can tweak it, right? You can drag all of these things. Again, we're just clicking and holding and dragging down our mouse or your touchpad, whatever you're using. So when you feel confident, when you say, okay, whatever is inside of this box is what I'd like to keep, anything outside is what I would like to cut out and crop away. When you're ready, you can go up here to the top, to this upper right, and you can see that we see apply. So when you click apply, now you can see that my image has been trimmed, looking good. We are not done, however. We can see that even though our image is looking good, I'll zoom in so we can see a little bit easier. We can still see that we have a little bit of yellowish tint to this particular page, and that's because of the lighting that was in the room when I took this picture. So we're going to want to adjust the levels a little bit to bring out some of the brightness of the page, to maybe bump the contrast up a little bit, and of course to get rid of that yellowing. So to do that, we're going to go up here to the top to our top menu, and you can see that we want to adjust our image, so we're going to go under the adjustment menu. So here you can see under adjustment, these are going to be your main ways that you can manipulate the basic features of the photograph. So here you can see we have brightness, contrast, hue, saturation. You can mess with the exposure. There's a lot of things you can do. Again, we just want to make minor edits to clean up this image. We don't want to, again, misrepresent what's on the page. We just want to bring it out a little bit on this digital realm, because when I look at this piece in person, I can clearly see that it's not yellowish. The paper is bright white. The pencil is a nice rich gray. So we want to bring those things out on our digital image, right? Again, if you want to play with adding all kinds of crazy filters and stuff like that, you can do that on your own time. But for the purposes of our presentation, we're going to want to chill on that for a minute. So first, let's go ahead and do brightness and contrast. If you want to roll the dice and try auto adjust and see what the computer thinks you want to do, you can click it. So let's try it. So under auto adjust, you can see that pretty good, right? You can see that we've brightened up our page. Sometimes auto adjust works very well. Sometimes it doesn't work so well. Again, the computer doesn't know exactly what you want. So sometimes rolling the dice like that doesn't always work out so well. So remember, if you want to undo what you've done here, if I say, oh, I don't like that, it's a little bit too washed out, you can go under Edit up here at the top and press Undo. Or you can use the keyboard shortcut Control Z. If you're on a Mac, it's Command Z on your keyboard. So if you do, there you go, right? And you can see we have this little history panel at the lower right where we can see the different things that we've done to this image so far. And that can be helpful when it comes to remembering exactly what you did, what you want to undo, what you want to redo under the Edit menu. Anyway, back to our adjustments. Brightness and contrast, let's hit it. So again, here you can see that as you slide these elements, you will be able to see them being reflected on your actual image, right? So of course, adjusting the brightness is a good thing, but of course realize that when you take your photographs, you should be in some sort of decent lighting situation. Natural indirect light is the best, but if you don't have that, if you're inside, try to position yourself underneath some lights where you're not casting crazy shadows on top of your picture, because that's impossible to fix without doing a lot of work. So for the brightness, we can turn it up a little bit because remember this piece of paper is white. Again, don't turn it up too much because then your image gets deep fried and burnt. So we definitely want to slide it to where we think it looks good, right? Remember, minor adjustments, minor cleanups, just to match what we have in reality. So let's turn it up like that. And then of course your contrast, you can bump that up a little bit too, because sometimes things get washed out. Again, don't go too hard, don't go too hard in either direction, because again, that's how you get burnt looking images, right? So I'm gonna pop this up a little bit. Again, there's no magical number for what should be entered in here under brightness and contrast. It's definitely a case-by-case basis and how you took the picture. If you're noticing that adjusting the brightness and the contrast, if it's just not working, if it's looking burnt or gray, you might need to retake the photograph if you didn't have decent light to begin with. But of course, this will help us enhance what we have. So when you're ready, you can press apply to confirm the changes. And here we go. You can see that our step has been logged. One thing that we need to do now is we need to edit the color, because again, it might seem minute, but when you look at this piece, we see that it looks a little bit yellow, and that's not what was on the page, right? I drew on a white piece of paper, I drew with graphite, no colors needed. So we're going to go under adjustment, and we're going to go under hue and saturation. So of course, realize that hue will dictate what type of color your picture lends itself more towards, which we don't have any color right now, so we're going to ignore that. So saturation, we want to turn the saturation down because we want to minimize the little bits of yellow light that got picked up in this piece. So again, you can see if you turn it up, my page gets more yellow. So we're going to turn it down to minimize those grays. And then when you feel like you like it, you can press apply. Right? So it's looking pretty good, right? Again, these minor changes can definitely elevate your piece, enhance what's already there, right? That's our goal with these particular pieces. We want to be able to look at this piece online the same way that we would look at it in person. So again, if you want to adjust any other things, you could definitely play around with some of these features, but most of you guys are probably just going to need to adjust brightness and contrast and saturation. Again, if you wanted to play with some of these other things, you're more than welcome to do so. If you wanted to mess with curves and levels, some more advanced ways to edit exposure and things like that, you're more than welcome to do so. But when we look at this piece, we can see we're looking pretty decent, right? Based on what I know about this piece in person. So when you're done, or you think you're done, we're going to go ahead and go to File, Save. So you're going to want to name this image in a way that you're able to find it. I'm going to call this my master study.jpg. Keep in mind that the file type doesn't matter too much. You should probably stick with JPEG if you're just working with drawings. And of course, think about quality as well, right? And of course, image size, it'll show you how big the file size is going to be. For those of you guys that are going to be uploading things onto Canvas, you might want to keep your image size small, right, on the smaller side. What I have going on here is a pretty good size. It'll be big enough where when I put it in the discussion board or on the assignment, It'll look good, it'll be big, and I can always size it down. But of course, if you're noticing that maybe your image is, 3,000 pixels tall by 2,000 wide, you might want to turn those down so that the file size is smaller and that you're able to upload it easier. That is a common issue that Canvas has, is that some of these really, really big, beautiful images that we take with our phones, it's great because it has a lot of information, but it makes the file size bigger. So don't be afraid to shrink down the file size here. Again, there's no perfect number. If you wanted to do 800 on the biggest side, that's kind of a good kind of medium way to go about it. So when you're done, you can press download and you can see she's downloading, right? And of course, real quick, I am going to show you the comparison, because it's always good to compare, because you want to make sure that you did enough work to clean up what you had, but of course the fact that you didn't accidentally transform too much. So let me bring up both of these little guys just to show you what we're working with here. All right, so let's go ahead and share my screen with you guys. Let's see. Share entire screen. Here we go. And we're back. Give her a second to load up. So, like I said, this is a great way to be able to, again, make sure that we are making our images nice and clean, nice and edited, right? So again, here you can see the comparison between my new image over here on the right side and my old image on the left, right? You can see how much cleaner, how much nicer this one looks, because again, we took the time to make those little tweaks. Again, we didn't totally transform what we had, we just simply enhanced, cleaned it up, because this reads a lot better than this one. And not just because it's rotated, but because we don't have all of this erroneous information around the sides there. All right, so again, that was completed using Pixlr. If you have a different tool that you prefer to use, like we've said, there's a lot of options out there. If you prefer to edit on your phone, that's something that a lot of people like to do. Like I said, there's a lot of really great apps out there. Cam Scanner is a good one. If you guys have the basic gallery or photo editing app on whatever phone you have, that can be a good way just to do some simple cropping and adjustment of levels. If you did, like I said, want to bring them to the computer, using Pixlr is a good thing to do if you don't have any other photo editing software to use. All right. Otherwise, that will do that for today's little mini demonstration. If you're having technical issues, be resourceful. If things aren't working, let me know and use the resources that I've presented to you. And don't be afraid to give things a quick Google if you're having trouble. Or like I said, feel free to reach out. You can reach me live at the times and places that I've listed on the announcements and on Canvas. If you want to send me a quick message, that's great too. If you're having technical difficulties, try to remember to be as specific as possible with your query. If you're saying, oh no, I can't adjust my image, that doesn't really give me a sense of what exactly I can help you with. So again, be as specific as possible, and I'm more than happy to help out. Otherwise, we're looking forward to seeing how your drawings manifest in the digital realm. Like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Thank you for joining me today, and happy drawing.